Hello and welcome back to Blood and Ashes. This is episode 64 and the start of our Crown of Swords reread. I am your host Mo, and I'm joined once again by my delusional friends Villy.
That's me. I will wear that t-shirt for years.
And Jody.
Bloop bloop. Moritz, you remember this phase in like a year in my life where I just greet people by going bloop bloop for some reason.
Did you?
It was a weird time in my life. Yeah,
Was this after you fell on your head in high school?
probably.
Or when we were drinking heavily as students, which is why I can't remember.
Round about that time.
That all tracks. You can tell me you said all manner of things and I would believe you. Right, gentlemen, here we go. Book 7. I am psyched. As always, I'm very light on the detail of this book beyond what the cover shows me, which is Rand and Shadow Logoth. So I know there's a showdown with Samael and Shadow Logoth. And that's where Moradin appears and they cross their streams of balefire. And that's all I remember about specific. I mean, I'll probably remember the events as they happen.
Things are forever changed.
Yeah. But yeah, I couldn't tell you right now what is going to happen in this book. Jody, you hinted at it in our previous episode about Nynaeve breaking her block and that sort of stuff. So
That's just what I assume.
I have finished this book quite recently, and I'm just going to spoil it all for you.
amazing.
But I can't remember what happened.
Yes, for once these shoddy memories work in our favor.
What I do know is that
Don't say anything cool that will be a surprise. If something is germane to the conversation, say it.
Oh, okay.
Again, every now and then we say this on our full spoiler cast. It's a weird thing to say, don't spoil it for me. But there is still an element of, don't remember what happens here so that when things do happen, they will be cool.
Okay. But I do have to spoil a few things for you. The first thing is
of
you
course.
don't learn much about Lan in this book
Okay.
at all. He's quite feral. So no Lan.
You're trying to trigger me.
Very little Nynaeve. Vale, they kind of been written off. It's a lot of Kyrenian and
Maybe that's why I've blanked it out.
other nobles.
Ooh,
That's
noble
like-
talk.
It's just beautiful.
Okay,
politics and
okay.
Noble talk and Dice Damar.
Oh, okay. Everyone, put your political robes on. Let's dive face first into the old Dice Diamond.
Jody. We lost Jody when we took.
Yeah, you're talking politics now. Like,
Jody is slumped so far down in his chair and has the single most disinterested disposition that I have observed in all 3 years of making this podcast. He seems completely uninterested in anything that's going on around him.
I'm super sleepy. I'll perk up later on.
I think over the last couple of weeks, you have maybe just now really knocked that lamppost. Like you are now a Spaniard. Like you've adopted the Spanish body.
It's only taken a decade.
It's over. Like you're like.
It's been like 15 years.
Okay, well, let's perk you up, Joe. Let's talk about Dumai's Wells. I mean, we haven't spoken about that enough. So maybe a trip down Callback Lane will perk you right up. So let's do that.
Let's do it.
How many golem were made by Agenor?
6.
5.
Villy takes it with 6, 3 male, 3 female.
Damn it.
Then I have, in the Eye of the World, when Lan and Moiraine have a brief argument about whether to ride north and hide in Shadow Logoth or south. You remember on the Camelin Road when the Trollocs are attacking from the east and the west and the horns are blowing in the background before they have that battle where Matt shouts in the Old Tongue. It's Lan who suggests that they go to Shadow Logoth, and Moiraine resists the idea, which was the perfect opportunity for her to compel Lan using the water bond, but she doesn't. Also, when Moraine, Lan, and Perrin and company travel through Ilion, and Moraine goes to investigate Lord Brend, who we know is Samael, she tells Lan to stay behind, and he disobeys. So that's another time she could have compelled him, because she tells him, look, this is going to be too dangerous for you, you might die. And in the Great Hunt, the chapter called Watchers, remember when Moraine and Lan are at Adelaus and Van Dien's house doing some research, and we get one of those rare Moraine POV chapters. Moraine tells Lan what will happen to their bond when she dies, and she tells him he'll be compelled to seek out Morel. And this is said to be the first time Moraine has compelled him to do anything. So there are like opportunities and even little mentions of this compulsion using the water bond, which Moraine did not use. So Morel doing this on Lan is, okay, maybe the second time that it's been done, because Moraine says to him, you will feel compelled to seek Morel out. And there she is actually using the compulsion through the water bond. So we were correct to assume that Moraine had never done it to Lan. I was sort of a bit wishy-washy about how Moraine was trying to avoid taking the Sun Throne. It was specifically the sitters of the Hall in the White Tower that started insinuating that Moraine must make a play for the Sun Throne after she was raised to Aes Sedai, which added to her need to get out the tower. So yes, she had been given the mission to obviously go find the Dragon Reborn, but she was also eager to get out of there because she didn't want to get pressured into taking the Sun Throne or making a play for it. Then we had quite a long chat about Berelain and what prompted her to search Rand's rooms, and we sort of pieced it all together, and for the most part we were right, but I thought I would just quickly lay it out here where it makes a lot of sense, or for it to make a bit more sense than it did at the time. Berelain was afraid because everyone knew that the Aes Sedai had come to Cairhien to escort Rand to Tarvalon, and she couldn't figure out why they had left. I mean, they came there with one purpose and then left. So that, signal number one to Berelain. She says that she had no less than 10 visits from Aes Sedai to talk to her about what she would do once Rand has left Cairhien for the tower. They seemed very certain, which was another warning for Berelain. Like, why are they so adamant that I go back to Mayene? Because they even say to her, if you don't go by yourself, you will be escorted, basically. Berelain also knew not only that Marengil was killed, but that it was Colavir's servant that poisoned him. So Berelain, Vili, in answer to your question, does Berelain know about it at this stage? She knows at least about Marengil, and she also knows specifically it was Colavir that had Marengil killed. So there's another clue for her. Everyone, including Dobrain, who brought it to that room of people, knew about Colavir's meeting with the minor houses the night before, like she was not making a secret about it. And it is quite clearly to rally support. And then lastly, everyone knew that Rand intended the Sun Throne for Elaine. So Colavir's brazen moves for the throne combined with the message between the lines from the Aes Sedai make a pretty simple case. So Colavir and the Aes Sedai talking about the throne of Cairhien when everyone knows that Rand is intending for Elaine to sit on the throne means that somehow Rand and his Elaine plan must now no longer be viable or be moved out of the way. So yes, there were actually quite a few breadcrumbs for Berelain to follow. All right, Joe, this next one is for you especially. So perk up, pinch yourself. Do you remember Arian, the Aes Sedai that was beating Rand, and the remorse that you thought she felt?
Ah, yeah.
Okay, so here we go.
God. Is this like a Mastiffs thing?
It's probably going to become that.
I love it. No. Do carry on.
Very well.
I love it.
Okay, let's lay it out here. So, firstly, after the warder killing, Arian is always around Rand's chest. When Galena approaches her, Arian tells Galena he tried to break the shield again and that he must be punished for that. She says it with wrath mingled with contempt. Those are the words from the text. So, at least a day after the warder killing. So, this is the next day. Rand notes the morning that she does greet him with fury on her face, and when she immediately starts beating him, that she doesn't say anything, unlike the night before. So there's been more than one beating by her specifically. It means that she's had a night after beating Rand, had a night, and then the next morning is beating him again. Rand thinks to himself, it seems certain that it would be Arian beating him again the next day, and she looks for confirmation of Rand's weeping fiercely, as another word from the book. He do be weeping, Galena, she said fiercely. Can you hear him? He do be, and then she cries again. So I stand by what I said before. I think she's only crying because she's emotionally upset about her warder and not because she feels sorry about anything she's done on now multiple occasions. Then I wanted to clear up for myself mostly. I mean, let's face it, 90% of these callbacks are for my own edification. The fight between Sulin and Nandira and the repercussions of that. They both used to come forward when the maidens were tasked with something, and Sulin would back off, blushing. So, out of habit, she feels like she represents the maidens. So what we're dealing with is quite obviously the power dynamic between Nandira and Sulin when it comes to actually taking charge of the maidens. But even though Sulin wins the fight and carries Nandira off, from then on, only Nandira speaks for the maidens, and Sulin obeys Nandira's orders without question. So even though Sulin wins the fight, this is what Perrin is confused about, right? Sulin obviously wins the fight, but Nandira retains control of the maidens, and not only that, Sulin completely climbs back in her box, which, is odd. Similarly, but not quite the same, with Soralia and Amis. All the other wise ones move around in groups. So like while they're marching, the other wise ones are moving around in groups. So Perrin notices that they're moving around in groups between Soralia and Amis. Amis starts backing off from Soralia more slowly. So, when she does have to back off, it's with more and more resistance. She actually wants to get her point across, and blushing less. So she's not feeling as embarrassed about counter or contradicting Soralia. As she tries harder and harder to get her suggested course of action to win out over Soralia's. After they go off and they sit and they drink the cups of water until late at night, all the shifting of the groups of wise ones now center around Soralia only, and there are no more looks and glances concerning the two opinions. In Wolf terms, Perrin thinks he saw a challenge on the leadership of the wise ones defeated by the matriarch, so it's almost like Amis was trying to impose her will over that of Soralia. But from Soralia, he now senses her interactions with Amis as more of an equal than a subordinate, which is not how it would happen with the wolves. So Soralia, after this discussion, has actually sort of come to realize that, okay, Amis is not just a subordinate. I can take her word to heart, and I should take her counsel and that sort of thing. So that's actually quite a boon for Amis. From everything we know about Soralia, right? Like she's looking at Amis as her equal now, which is pretty great. Not the case with Nandira and Sulin, but Soralia and Amis it is. And then we asked, who's taking the Two Rivers girls where to Saladar? Saladar's empty. It's Karuna that assigns the taking of the Two Rivers girls to Saladar. And she gives it the job to Demira, Valinda, Chiron, and Berenicia, while the others will accompany her to follow Rand. They later show up in the rebel Aes Sedai camp, so they must have met them along the road. Then Villy, I'll stop picking on Jodie now. It's your turn. The power dynamic between Bera and Karuna. So this is actually quite interesting. Bera has a 1 power strength of 14-2, placing her close to the very top of the Aes Sedai hierarchy. That's 1 level below Moraine and Swan. So that's Bera, the one with the short hair that looks like a farmer's wife. Among the rebel faction, only Romanda, Cassin, and Lelaine surpass her in strength, and only Sheriam and Karuna are her equal. So she is also strong enough to travel. So Karuna is her equal. Bera spent only 4 years as a novice and 4 as accepted, and during this time she and Karuna were pillow friends. Although both enjoyed men exclusively later, they remained the very closest of friends. Bera was raised to the shawl at the age of 23, an almost unprecedented young age. Actually, now that I think of it, Villy, was it you that thought there was a power dynamic? No, it was Jodie as well. The picking on Jodie continues.
I'm just waiting where I'm getting picked on here because
No, you're not.
everything
Sorry.
sounded perfect.
No, it was me.
It is Jodie. Jodie, back in the witness box. Cross-examination continues.
Yeah.
Objection.
Give it to him.
Sustained.
Karuna, on the other hand, spent 4 years as a novice and 4 as an accepted. That sounds familiar, right? During which time she became pillow friends with Bera. Obviously, the two women were entered into the novice book, raised to accepted and raised to Aes Sedai in step with one another. And Karuna was raised to the shawl at the age of 22, one of the youngest ages a woman has ever been raised. So Bera and Karuna both very strong and both arrived at the tower, entered in the novice book, became accepted, and Aes Sedai all in lockstep, all together. Which is just furthering my opinion that between the two of them, there isn't a jockeying for power. They've got their working dynamic figured out. But here's a fun fact. Their relationship mirrors that of Swan and Moraine. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Both in the same Arja, at the same level of strength, among the strongest of sisters, and one a noble and the other a commoner. Real close parallels.
Very, very much so.
The Ogier Deathwatch Guard are called gardeners. And the saying I was referring to apparently is quoted many times in the series, to anger the Ogier and bring the mountains down on your head. It's well known. Okay, here, Villy, here's definitely one for you. This was your theory about lose.
Impossibly.
Impossible, beyond reproach. Cannot be. Move along.
Cannot.
Lewis.
Did
about Lewis?
Did Lewis steal the Aes Sedai that had maintained that shield on Rand? Remember, you thought maybe it was Lewis that reached out.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Okay. Rand couldn't see the Aes Sedai keeping his shield like he could the others later. So you remember he saw Arian and the others riding around on horses actually, and like he could club them with things of air and that sort of thing, that sort of stuff. He had to attack what those soft points were. It was the only access he could have to any of them. But most importantly, Luz can't channel while Rand is holding Saidin, and Rand is channeling all over the shop there. So the fact that they have to jockey for control of Saidin means that Rand has it, Rand's channeling, Luz doesn't have access to Saidin.
Because Luz was channeling everything. It was him all
This is what you call a double down.
Look,
I think what Moritz is trying to say, Villy, is that your ideas are dumb, but my ideas are dumber.
yes, you have the dumbest ideas. I have dumb ideas. But anyway, I'm going to support my theory of my dumb idea. And if you give me a moment to explain, indulge me. Rand, a man from the Two Rivers. Same as a man from the Two Rivers, Perrin. And another man from the Two Rivers, Matt. These guys have got this protective thing over women.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that any one of them, including Madman Rand, is going to lash out to kill a woman. It's not going to happen.
And he didn't.
Stilling equals killing. It is Luz that lashed out.
Keep this line of reasoning up your sleeve for when we get to Kerry's message later, because it's going to be my turn to defend a dumb theory. Okay. Right now, I have to defend not a dumb theory, but just my dumb self. I used the word summation in the previous episode, and when I heard it, it stuck in my ear like a splinter, and I was like, "That's not the right word." And I went and looked it up. Yeah, summation is not a summary.
Like a bindi. And
Yes.
I was going to call you out on it. Like, it's just poor grammar.
Yeah, summation is a thing of mathematics. It's when you actually sum a bunch of numbers. A summary is what you did.
Mm-hmm.
When Rand lets Gawyn and the Younglings ride off, Gawyn darts past Rand and makes the earth explode beneath him, almost killing Gawyn, who sways in his saddle. And then Rand clubs him with a mace of air, which I thought was quite an aggressive description of the thing of air. A mace. I mean, that's like a spiked thing. And Gawyn snarls at Rand before Taim arrives. Gawyn has both a sword and dragon pin, and he's, like I said, a Taim loyalist and a traitor later. And of the Ashaman that Rand recognizes, only Torval is wearing the dragon. And Torval is the guy that Taim clubbed when Rand arrived at the farm some time back. So you can already see here, for us who know what Torval and Gawyn become later, they are being raised to full Ashaman, ahead of people like Dharma Flynn and Jer Grady and those guys who we know to be loyal to Rand. They're not getting elevated in the ranks as quickly as Torval and Gawyn and Taim's lackeys.
Loyalist.
Yeah. Then we've got a couple of listener submissions from Ian Yellen and Joe Queen of Swords. Ian wrote in actually a couple of weeks ago. I just missed via Facebook weirdness his message for the last episode, where Ian addresses our question about why Rand met with the Tower Embassy with no one in the room. That sounds weird. But Ian says that Rand normally meets people without the maidens inside the room. The major exception was when he had the 100+ maidens with the Saladar Aes Sedai, because the Aes Sedai were trying to surprise him, and he was pointing out that won't work. So I was trying to think of the other audiences. The only other one I could remember with some amount of clarity is when Egwene is hiding in the room. You know, when Coirin and the Tower Embassy arrived the first time, and he's hidden Egwene with Saidin weaves. It is just them in the room. So that tracks. So our thing, like, weren't there like hundreds of maidens in the other meeting? Yes, there were, but for a very specific reason. And the norm is actually for him to meet without anyone else in the room. And then Jo, Queen of Swords, wrote in to say she wanted to point out that in Bram Stoker's Dracula, one of the shapes that Dracula can transform into, aside from vampire bats, is a wolf. And she remembers if she remembers the law correctly, whatever form he is in at the time of sunrise is the form he must remain in until sunset. I think the Underworld series touched on the notion that werewolves and vampires are actually connected through Dracula, so maybe that has something to do with it. I would not put it past RJ to be well acquainted with Bram Stoker's work. Cool. All right. So maybe those are like faint references to a connection between vampirism and wolves and Perrin's wolfiness. And then finally, a voice note from a friend of the show, Kerry Katz, who has taken me up on my challenge to submit a voice message via the website and submitted 6 of them. So we'll focus on one of them, which is actually 2 of them spliced together. You guys won't know that, but Kerry was taken a bit by surprise by the 90-second limit. So for our listeners out there, if you are leaving a voice note, just know that the messages are limited to 90 seconds. So you've got a minute and a half to get your message across. But here we go.
Hi, gang. Kerry here. Challenge accepted, Moritz. Here's your voice note instead of WhatsApp voice note. So this pertains to something that you guys discussed quite a while ago when Rand started hearing Luce Theron, whether he was hearing him or whether it was just a voice in his head. I'm on book 11, and the scene with Semirog where she pretends to be Tuon and then burns off Rand's hand. And then he says that she's Semirog, and Cadsuane and them are like, well, how do you know? Are you sure? And then she says he knows because he's mad. And then she says, I'm just going to read this to you from the book. She says, you know of people who hear voices in their heads. Sometimes, very rarely, the voices they hear are the voices of past lives. Lanfear claimed that he knew things from our own age, things only Lewis Theron Telemon could know. Clearly, he is hearing Lewis Theron's voice. It makes no difference that his voice is real, however. In fact, it makes the situation worse. For me, that clears it up. I didn't think that Lewis Theron was just Rand's insanity. I thought that he was real because he always knows things that Rand wouldn't know. So I disagreed with that theory. And for me, just listening to Semirog say that, that clears it up for me that Lewis Theron in Rand's head is real.
Okay, so this old chestnut, right? We've spoken about this one at length a number of times. Do you guys agree with Kerry's interpretation? I mean, I'm asking, this is almost a rhetorical question because I know that you both feel strongly about the fact that this is not a personality that Rand has made up in his own mind.
I've been saying this from the first moment. So, yes.
You have?
I agree. I have.
All right.
I've never thought that this was an imaginary or a symptom of his psychosis. It's a literal dude inside his literal brain. Because he is literally Lewis Theron reborn, not the chosen one.
Jody, starting to make my point for me. I have 4 points listed at you.
Oh, here we go. It was a trap. It's all that it was.
It was a trap
for us.
Look at him. Look at his little beady little eyes.
Oh, here we go. Okay, I'm sitting back now.
What, Jody?
Now I'm just going to slouch again and look at you with disinterest,
Okay.
but please.
Okay, bear with me here. Point number 1 is just couching my whole response. I've written this down, so let me read it to you.
Okay.
As you two have both known for as long as you have known me, I love to play devil's advocate. I will argue the other side of an opinion purely because nobody in the room is. So I'll take on that responsibility to hold us all to account. And that's what I've done with this theory from the beginning. So I'll keep going, right? Like, I'm the only one talking about this.
You don't have to.
But
really,
but I do need to because I need that silver bullet to call back to the werewolf mythology that puts this theory to rest. And at the moment, even with Kerry's message, I don't see that silver bullet yet. So The theory posits that Rand 100% has Lews Therin's memories, right? We know that. We've seen instances of this with Matt. I mean, that's the most obvious one. But even before Matt went to the Finns, he was talking in the Old Tongue, like the blood of Manetherin runs strong in the two rivers, all that sort of stuff. I mean, that was happening in the eye of the world. So this concept of, we know rebirth, the wheel of time, all that sort of stuff is baked into every fiber of this story. And we know that Rand definitely has Lews Therin's memories. It's super obvious. He uses place names and stuff all the time, right? Like the weaves, I can sort of you could hand wave that away a little bit because a lot of people start weaving stuff that they've never done before out of the blue. But specifically naming of places, knowing of things, that is 100%
certain Forsaken.
Exactly.
Where
exactly.
He fought against Ishmael and
calling Forsaken by their pre-Forsaken names, their Age of Legends names, and that sort of stuff. He absolutely has those memories. And the theory that was posited some time ago that I'm defending for some reason has never disputed that, because that has to be in place. And like you said, Jody, he is the reincarnation of Lews Therin, right? Like he is Lews Therin reborn and therefore has his memories. No arguments there.
But
well, let me build to the but. So the theory states,
however,
that to cope with these additional memories, that Rand has created the Lews Therin persona himself. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, if Rand is Lews Therin reborn, it's the same soul returning to a new body, right? Bringing with it memories and all that sort of stuff. So, how could Lews Therin be a separate entity if he's the same soul? Are there then two souls residing in Rand's body?
Yes.
Okay.
You were expecting more of a fight?
It's
yes, because
it's saying that, okay, if that's the case, then Matt needs to have 100 souls in him because he's got memories.
Matt has memories. Matt's got memories.
So does Rand.
That's my point exactly. Thank you for agreeing, Billy. Moving on. I'm kidding. No, it's just the memory thing addresses all that stuff. Now, the clip that Kerry read, or the section that Kerry read for us from the book, is taken from, I believe it was Semirog that was, saying all those things about the fact that it is probably that person in his mind. I can shoot a hole in that point because any Forsaken, or character for that matter, in the story is quite often an unreliable narrator. Forsaken in the Age of Legends Aes Sedai didn't know that stilling can be healed, so they state factually that it can't. The wise ones say that entering Tel'aran'rhiod in the flesh is a thing of evil, which RJ himself has said is not true. They just think that. So I will take what the Forsaken are saying about Rand's psychological state with a pinch of salt, or from whence it comes, because that to me is not a definitive answer on whether that is the case or not.
Yeah, I can accept that that is not a definitive stance. That's an opinion that's being raised over there. But I mean, it is quite on the nose.
It is. I must say, after doing some of this, trying to reason out, the two soul thing doesn't work for me, Jody. I don't think there are two souls in Rand's body. At the end of the story, I mean, there is movement of souls and that sort of stuff. That's why I can invoke the word soul. And there is no mention of anything like multiple souls in a single body or anything like that. The whole concept of reincarnation is not adding souls to a body. It is the same soul coming back in different bodies. So I am starting to actually, more so than before, buy into this theory, because I like the way that it sort of jigsaws together.
What if, the body is a metaphor and the soul is an egg? And the metaphor is a nest, and the soul, there's multiple eggs in the nest, and one of them is an intruder egg, like a cuckoo bird that laid another soul over there, and then the two are fighting, like the cuckoo soul, and the soul of the metaphoric body, nest, egg, nest,
Jesus Christ.
Well, that makes perfect sense. Billy's convinced me.
Rand is not then Lews Therin reincarnated. Rand is then possessed by Lews Therin.
Yeah, look, this has never happened before as far as we know. Like, every chosen one has been a new chosen one. This being like the dragon,
but we haven't had a book
But we
about
only know
anyone
two.
before. We don't know them.
Yeah, we only know two.
There's no story to tell us how insane they were, and I think if there were, it would go with the same battle and the same madness and the same like being possessed by the previous dragon. Like Matt, that's the curse. Like you got to fight the possible possession of the previous dragon to prove that you're a stronger dragon or not. Otherwise, the previous dragon just takes over. Like, okay, cool. Maybe for 10 turnings of the wheel, one dragon came back and just was like always getting his way. Like, oh shit, it's that guy. Genghis Khan is back again.
He wouldn't have been called the dragon. This is just specifically Lews Therin who was called the dragon. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is perhaps the pattern has linked Lews Therin's soul to Rand's body, and there's a fight in, he's trying to take over. Maybe it isn't two souls specifically. We've never been down this road before. This is,
it's a rabbit hole.
This is uncharted magical stuff. So there's definitely a fight going on for dominance inside Rand's body.
In his mind.
Maybe there isn't Lews Therin's soul isn't in there at the moment, but it's trying to get in through some magical pattern shit.
Like a cuckoo egg.
Rand fights him off
in the
and
nest.
Manages to keep him at bay and just take what he needs and fuck you.
So it's not a rebirth, it's a possession.
It's a repossession.
Now, at the end of all of this, all of these notes, and like I said, I am leaning now because of the reincarnation and the one soul versus two souls thing. I am leaning in the direction of the theory. I'm talking myself into it, but I will say this. I'm pretty sure that at the end of this story, all of this gets addressed. So for the love of God, can someone who has read the end of the series recently just put us out of our misery? Or be subjected to this kind of inane nonsense every couple episodes?
Well, that's what you get. You signed the contract for inane nonsense. So
sure did.
Now you have to sleep in your big nonsense bed. Let's go.
Okay. All right. So let's have a nice palate cleanser before we get into Crown of Swords via a
champagne sorbet, perhaps.
Ooh. Well, instead of that, I can offer you previously on Blood and Ashes. After Rand is kidnapped by the Tower Aes Sedai, Perrin, Loyal, Dobrain, and Samayana winged guards and 6,000 Aiel set off to free him. Along the way, they're joined by what's left of the Saladar embassy from Caemlyn and a couple hundred Two Rivers men. When they catch up to the Aes Sedai, they're already defending themselves from 40,000 Shaido, and the forces of the light join the fray. During the battle, Rand actually manages to escape his literal and Saidar prisons, aided by the intervention of Taim and 200 Ashaman, who lay waste to everything around them. The other onlookers are shocked by what they see in the Ashaman do to the Shaido. After the battle has subsided, Rand turns his attention to the Aes Sedai, lumps them all together regardless of Tower versus Rebel loyalty, and commands them to kneel. His trust in the Aes Sedai is irreparably broken. The effects of his heinous kidnapping will haunt the Aes Sedai for the remainder of the series. Morgidian is freed from her Adam by Arangar. Thalion and Ispen are revealed to be watching Nynaeve and Elaine and Ibu Dar. Herod Fell is murdered by a golem. Egwene sets up Logain's escape from the rebel Aes Sedai camp. And lastly, Demandred reports to Shire Ghul claiming to have done well? ?
I'm Ron Burgundy.
And that brings us to the prologue for Crown of Swords called Lightnings. Please light the way, Jody, and then later Vili, because we've split this chapter up between you guys.
So much splitting. So I want to know, which golem was it that killed Herod Fell?
I think it was a male.
Bob.
Yeah.
Bob
Steve.
the golem. Steve. Oh, that's who Steve is. All
right, Joe, tell us what is up with Elaida.
What's up with Elaida? Ugh. Fuck this bitch. She is just
torture.
Listen. Yeah, look, this part is a lot of her inner monologues about how fucking awesome she thinks she is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, since we know how the story ends and how her story ends, it's just reading it is tedious. So she's moved up. Literally. She's moved up in the tower.
Mm-hmm.
She's right at the top, like almost right at the top.
Mm-hmm.
That's where she's got her offices now. That's where she sleeps. She has her own apartments, but she's like, fuck that noise. I want a palace. Why should I have apartments when kings and queens have palaces? So she's also moved up here so that she can get a view down of the Warders training yard, which is now a construction site.
I know.
Like, on top of all of that, that's where you build it?
She's a red.
Right? You can't do that. That's where Matt kicked Gawyn and Gallet's ass. That's sacred ground. That's holy ground, Highlander. So anyway, she's there, looking down on things, thinking how fucking awesome she is. She wants her new palace as well to surpass the White Tower. She's going to put a spire on top of it that's higher than the White Tower itself. It's just like, wow.
The ego
Just
on this
go,
woman.
girl. Like, if you're going to go big, fucking go big.
Yeah.
She's asked the Ogier to come and help, and they were like, no, fuck that noise. We're not leaving. We're not going to come help you with that. So she can't use the one power. She can't use... They don't remember how to work the one power into stone anymore. The Ogier don't want to come. So when she broke the news to the head stonemason, he was like, I don't think that's not going to happen. But she gave him a dirty look, and he was like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. She'll do it. Well, he'll do it. So anyway, she's got a report, by the way. She received a little slip of paper from Galena telling her that Rand has been captured and shielded and is on her way. So she is just fucking preening in her own self-glory. Meanwhile, we already know that happened, and he's already escaped and killed everyone. And Galena's on the fucking run, and nothing is going to end well for her. But anyway, she thinks she is just, she's loving life. She thinks she is the bee's knees, the cat's whiskers, whatever you want to put in there. So while she's, bathing in her own glory, Alviarin arrives. She didn't even knock, this bitch. She just walks in the room like she owns the place. And she comes to tell her, about Ibudar. There's a lot of maneuvering here and plans that people have set in motion that I was not really keeping track of. But anyway, Elaida has sent people to Ibudar, but they have found nothing. But Alviarin has some information from Ibudar, from other sisters, that they have got Elaine and Nynaeve identified, posing as full sisters. And has even an artist's impression. But anyway, the whole thing about this is that Alviarin and Elaida are having this little power play in between them. Like, Alviarin is not giving her all the information and then holding back information until later to try and gauge her, reactions and whatnot, just to show that she's in charge and she knows things that Elaida doesn't know, and blah, blah, blah. That whole thing. You got these two horrible women doing horrible things. What's up?
The two Aes Sedai that she sent to Ibudar are Teslin and Jolene, who become Matt's traveling companions later. And the other Aes Sedai that Alviarin is quoting as knowing about Elaine and stuff is Tana Fear. Remember the emissary from the tower that went to Saladar from the tower and confronted them there. Okay. So that's where she's getting her info from.
Alrighty. So she's got some information that Elaida doesn't have. And she's stoked about that and drip feeding her information. Anyway, this is irritating Elaida, obviously. She doesn't have a lot of control. She's starting to get control. She's got like 6 sitters under her control at the moment. She knows that that Alviarin is kind of in control of the whole of the sitters. Like, they won't really do anything without her approval. So she's slowly but surely wresting control back under the ambulance seat instead of the keeper, keeper of the something or the other, the seals.
The seals.
What is she? The keeper of the what?
The seals.
I want to say
Keeping the chronicles.
So she's also like, you know what else is a problem? These men who can channel bullshit. We're gonna have to send some sisters out there to go and deal with it. Send 50 sisters and 200 of the guard as well. And the plan is to just like get in there, gentle any man they can find. She doesn't believe that there's more than 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of the men who have gone to the Black Tower they could actually channel. So grossly underestimating her enemies, and sending 50 sisters who we know that doesn't end well either. But like the plan is to gentle them and then hang them, and then just kill anyone else who's like around, and hang them up too, and just hang everybody, and then leave them as like a big warning to those who might consider standing against her or coming to the Black Towers. It's like all against tower law. You can't just hang men. They have to be, it's taken to trial first and all of that. But she's just skipping all over that. Alviarin's like warning her against this as well. Like this, this is a bad idea. And people are saying there's way more than like 3 guys who could channel. They're like hundreds of guys who can channel there. But of course she won't listen. And she's thinking to herself, Elaida that is, thinking to herself like, Alviarin's so stupid. She doesn't know anything, blah, 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 blah,
I just
blah.
want to interject right there. We're talking about Alviarin, the Black Archer sister, right?
Leader of the Supreme Council. She is the head of the Black Archer.
Yeah. Trying to give this delusional Amyrlin seat some sound advice. Not even nothing to benefit them. It was like, hey man, maybe you should be doing this thing. And this is like, no, nothing. I am who I am.
That's a good point. That's a good point, Vili, that how bad of an Amyrlin seat you must be when the head of the Black Archer is like, whoa.
Yeah.
I think you should reconsider these crazy plans of yours. Like, even for me, that's out of control.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she's talking about like how many men that can channel and stuff. So she tells her like, listen, in the last 20 years, we've only found 24 men who can channel. And also in the last 10 years, it's only been 3 or 4. But apparently they say 24, but it was only 16. They've got some sort of hidden records where they've been lying about the shit they've been doing. So even if Swan's little lie about the Red Aja, setting up false dragons and all of that, she's not far off. Even if she did make it up, because she was Amyrlin seat, so she would have had access to these records. So she knows that there's been lies about men who can channel in the past. So maybe she's based her plan to discredit the Red Aja based on stuff like this, because they have been lying about how many men who can channel and how many people have been stilled and gentled and whatnot. So anyway, there's something there.
Well, you know what they're referring to specifically, right? Is the vileness.
Run the vileness by me again.
The Black Archer had manipulated the Red Archer into not directly killing, but setting up the deaths of men who could channel. Because when they found out that the dragon was reborn, this is why the last 20 years is significant, right? It's since the dragon was reborn, the Red Archer went out and actually had men killed, including Owen, Tom's nephew.
Yes.
And when the Black Archer eventually were told by Ishamal to immediately stop, it actually took a while for the Red Archer to stop. And I think we read about it later when Alviarin mentions a Black Archer head. Alviarin was made head of the Supreme Council when Ishamal killed the head of the Supreme Council because they had set this in motion, because Ishamal didn't want the Dragon Reborn killed. He wanted to turn the Dragon Reborn. So all this talk about the 8 men that were found that are not part of the official record are the men that they had killed, or not killed themselves, but had, set up to die. So yeah, big shit.
Tom's nephew being one of them.
Yes.
One of those 8, I imagine. I doubt he's officially listed in the records.
I think he's one of the 8. I think it's commonly accepted.
Wasn't Owen in the tower?
He was in a town.
No, I think they just went to
his town. His townspeople killed him.
Oh yeah, then he wouldn't be in the lists. He wouldn't be officially recorded.
No, the Red Archer made it known around town that he can channel and stuff, and sort of set him up for death.
It's pretty inefficient and pretty bad of them that after 20 years. Well, okay, wait now. It kind of makes sense now that if they were persuaded to stop killing men that can channel, that there are this horde of an army that the Asherman was pulled off. Okay, 20 years, you can't really breed an army, but that would have
some of those men are well over 20 years old.
Up. Yeah, exactly, but they weren't discovered. So maybe they only started channeling 20 years old, so they're 40.
I think the takeaway here is that the Reds were not particularly good at rooting out and finding the men who could channel.
Well, they're not particularly good, so let's just do that.
Exactly.
Jarna Malari was her predecessor's name.
Alviarin's?
Alviarin's, the one who started the vileness.
Yeah.
So like Alviarin just keeps on, telling her to chill out and remember that past Amberlins also like overstepped and had to take on penances and all of that stuff. And she's like, I will not do anything. No one's going to stop me. I am the law. Is like her literal words. I am Tower Law.
Okay, Stallone.
I was also imagining that in Stallone's accent.
Yeah. Indeed. 100%.
Great movie.
Yeah. So anyway, she is just losing it completely. So she tells her as well, like, so, and then if, go to the tower, and then, if you're anywhere around, from now on, find a man who can channel, you just fucking hang him. Don't even bother bringing him back. She's like, whoa, okay. Okay, crazy lady, whatever you say. So then, at the end of all of this, after all of this back and forth, the Alviarin decides that she'll let Elaida know that the rebels are on the move, that they've chosen Gawyn as their Amberlin, that they've got Gareth Bryan and a army of thousands, and they are marching towards the tower. And Elaida bursts out laughing. Like, now she's just like maniacal laughing. The text is like she's on the point of like drumming her heels into the ground. She's laughing so hard. So she's just like, no, listen, man, that's a load of shit. Those people that are coming with that army, as soon as they see the shining walls of Tar Valon, they'll run away. They're probably losing 10 soldiers a day. And even if they are soldiers, they're like farmers with pitchforks and la 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 la. Like, just everything she says in this point is wrong. It's the complete opposite of truth. The army is growing as it gets closer. That they're like soldiers that are being trained by the great
Couldn't
captain.
be more wrong.
And they've got Saldaeans there training the heavy cavalry. And like this is a badass army. And Alviarin's like trying to get Elaida to grow the tower army. Like we need to get more troops in this place. And she's like, nah, it's bullshit. We're not going to do it. Turns out that is a request. Well, I want to say a request, a command from Messana to Alviarin to get Elaida to grow the army as well in the tower. But Elaida's not having any of it. She doesn't see any threat whatsoever.
Just point of order, so I don't have to do a callback. The Saldaeans aren't training the rebel army; they're training their army in Camelin, Rand's army, not the rebel Aes Sedai army.
That's Gareth Bryn.
No, did I say Saldaeans?
Yeah.
Yes.
I did not mean Saldaeans. I meant Shinarans. Apologies. Because they've got Uno in them.
Yes, they're there.
Yeah,
Shinarans.
they are there, and they're helping out
Not
with the training.
Borderlanders.
Shinarans, my Apollo.
Borderland starts with an S.
Borderlanders.
Heavy cavalry.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
There you go.
Understandable.
You know what I mean.
Do continue.
Yeah, and apparently, so she's like also not worried about the Aes Sedai rebels. There's 300 of them moving, but she knows that at least 100 of them, based on what Tana Fia told her, are all skittish and ready to jump over. And of course, she also has some plan to mess with them. Has she got someone else? I don't remember what this plan is. Do we know what
I
this
had the
plan
same
is?
question, and I thought, remember when you read about Saladar in the beginning, some of the peasants walk around and they sort of go, oh, that Elaida isn't so bad. Like, maybe this was a bit... Maybe that's her, like, big plan, is to have people talk about how great Elaida is in Saladar. But that's the only thing that I can think of that might even be...
That, Moritz, sounds exactly like an Elaida plan. And just
Half-assed.
convinced it's going to work.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, okay, so that's I think that's what it is. All right.
Is to me.
So she's just laughing at her and telling her, like, no, listen, you're worrying about nothing. This is all going to come to nothing. Don't worry about it. I've got everything under control. Soon my palace will be ready and I'll be king of the world.
I'll have the biggest tower in the lands.
In the lands. But towards the end of this conversation, she is taken by a foretelling. Hey, hasn't been a foretelling from her in 20 years. And it takes her and basically... Was it? I think so.
She had one of Rand in Camelin.
No, she had the other day. Yeah. Every now and then she busts loose
when she
with a
met
little
him.
bit of wisdom.
I forgot about that one. Yeah, but anyway, like basically that the tower will be whole again and stronger than ever, and except for a few scorned outcasts that will be roaming the lands or whatever, and Rand will face the Amberlin and know her anger, and that the Black Tower will be rent and sisters will walk its grounds. And so all true, but just not in the ways you think. Nah. So yeah, this kind of freaks Alviarin out, who regains her control very quickly. She is Aes Sedai after all, even if she is a horrible one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's not every day you're in the presence of the Amyrlin who's sprouting foretellings out. But anyway, this is basically how the chapter ends. After that, Elaida takes a seat and chills out and looks at her and tells her, like, off you go, and go and sort out all my decrees and go and write out all those orders that I have for you. And there's like this scene at the end. I want to read it. So yeah, and then the chapter ends with this internal monologue from Elaida, talking about that Elaida do Avrini O'Royhan, youngest daughter of a minor house in the north of Murrundi, would go down in history as the greatest and most powerful Amyrlin seat of all time, the most powerful woman in the history of the world, the woman who saved humankind. I was like, whoa.
Nuts.
That chick is trippy, man. So anyway, that's how her point of view ends. Is there something to unpack here? You think Rand's insane?
So much to unpack over there.
Unpack this bag of cats living in this woman's head.
I'll quickly touch on just the very last thing you said there, Joe. Like, does her sort of internal delusions of grandeur remind you of anyone? A certain elderly great captain who thought that he would go face the Dark One. And,
yes.
And what do these two people have in common?
They're both dead.
They were both exposed to Mordeth. Paden Fane spent time with him. Whispered little things in their ear, hinted at things.
You are the greatest.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, like Elaida moving up to the top of the tower, she mentions that hardly anyone comes up here. So she's isolating herself. Like a Shadow Logoth, you know, like they built the walls around the city so no one could come in. She's busy alienating everyone around her while still having these delusions of grandeur. I might be attributing too much to Mordeth, but it certainly goes some way to like understanding how she could get to that point.
Look, that does ring true, but I'm not so sure about Pedron Niall, because I think he had this plan for many years before. Like, I think it was always his plan.
Well, Mordeth spent a considerable amount of time with Niall, probably more even than with Elaida. He was his little secretary.
Sure this plan must be like 20 years in the making or something, you know, for Niall. It's not like a thing he just came up with.
I don't know. He started making a lot of different moves all of a sudden. But that was all triggered by Rand. I think.
Yes.
Rand triggering that more, I would say.
But not triggered by Rand's birth 20 years ago. Triggered by Rand revealing himself at Falme, which is now, which is roundabout when Mordeth was also there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I always like to think of exactly what I keep saying Mordeth and not Paden Fane because I specifically want to draw the parallels with what happened at Aradol. When I see these same patterns play out between two characters that were also exposed to this person who we have been told by Moiraine will have that effect on people around them, the way that the White Cloaks get, you know, corrupted around him, the way that anyone that spends any amount of time even near him, let alone listening to what he was saying, which is how Mordeth sort of, you know, orchestrated the demise of Aradol, was to like whisper in people's ears and, like, you know, manipulate. Distrust, you know, and, you know, all that sort of stuff, which we see,
Because, I mean, this is some batshit crazy inner monologue.
It is, I mean...
The most powerful woman in the history of the world.
No, because...
She was fertile ground for those thoughts.
Yes.
It's not like she was pristine and holy and noble before Mordeth came around and suddenly she was corrupted. She was a prime candidate for specifically that type of egomaniacal sort of manipulation.
That's true.
Then some less interesting Elaida facts. She mentions the Feast of Lights, which is, you know, that debauched bloody street orgy we read about in Cairhien. And she's not Cairhenian. She's from Murrundi, as you just said. So obviously it's a festival outside of Cairhien as well. It's just the Cairhenian people decide, okay, well, it's party time. This is how we celebrate Feast of Lights. We get naked in the streets.
Yeah.
Just on that, and
It's
while
like a
you're
winter
there,
solstice
so
or
that
something.
it doesn't come out of context. I had a bit of thinking about this whole Feast of Light.
Of course you did.
There's continuously reference to the weather, that it should have been so much colder at that point in time. This is the first time that the Feast of Lights is being held in summer weather. So usually it would be like madness in a pub, but no one's running around tatties out in the street because it's cold. It's snowing. There's none of that shit outside. So it was kind of confined to how many pubs is in a town. This is the first time now that they're like, hey, we can do this in beer gardens. We can Feast of Lights outside, and it just turned into like this mega party where everyone is just like, okay, cool, this is like where the couch ends up on the fireplace type of party. Everyone's just like, okay, cool, go with it. That's what happened.
Yeah,
that's true.
That is true.
Geez, some awesome points being made here.
Sticking with Elaida, obviously this being her chapter, her dress has slashes of red, but I'm pretty sure that as the Amelin, you're not supposed to be of any Arja, with no references to your old Arja. Here she is, Amelin, walking in a dress with slashes of red, building a tower on the water practice yards.
Didn't Swan wear blue dresses? I'm sure.
Don't know about that.
No. Never.
No.
Callback, That's a callback for you, Joe.
Actually, I was about to say for Swan it might have been accidental. For Elaida it seems purposeful, but actually Swan also could have been purposeful if she did.
Yeah, if it was done on purpose.
But Elaida does also in this section say that she did still kind of think of herself as a red. She says that.
Yes.
So take it from whence it comes. Here's an interesting little tidbit. Elaida mentions in this section a clock that she's looking at with like little scenes playing out on it, the Dragon Reborn fending off an attack and blah, blah, blah. So, and she mentions the Amelin seat that had it commissioned. So I read up about that Amelin and listen to this. Kamail Sorenthane of the Grey Arja, who dreamed of re-establishing the White Tower as a global dominant force, but in the end was reduced to a total puppet of the Hall, with her keeper pretty much her guardian on behalf of the Hall. It's ironic that Elaida would bring out one of her artifacts, because that is exactly what is busy happening to Elaida.
Indeed.
Elaida trusts Galena above everyone else.
Yeah.
Great judge of character, Elaida. Well done. You sure know how to pick him.
You're best.
I did give Elaida credit, though, because she is aware that Rand's habit of suddenly disappearing from Camelin or Kyrene or Tyr would play into their hands, and so they pretty cleverly wove that into their own plans. But the fact that Elaida knew how this would play out certainly makes it sound like she had planned the kidnapping with Galena, and the diplomatic approach from Coirin was just for show.
Yeah.
At one point here, Alviarin is talking about Teslin and Jolene and how the information from them isn't, that substantial. Even the stuff from Tarn of Fear is sort of like bits and pieces that they already kind of knew. But then she also talks about the grey in Ibudar. Teslin is a red and Jolene is green. Teslin is actually a red sitter that Elaida had demoted and sent to Ibudar. Is she talking about the grey Arja as a whole, or the grey Arja eyes and ears? Because Alviarin, she says the grey, and then Elaida notes it as like, oh, did she use that wording to drive a further wedge between her and another Arja or something like that? It was just the singular framing of that reference made it sound like she was speaking about a specific sister that is grey. But I don't think it's Meridel. It's not Jolene or Teslin. It's not Tarn of Fear. Just didn't know who the grey could be. Elaida, I mean, if anyone knows, let me know. If I'm, barking up the wrong tree, let me know. Jumping at shadows. Elaida correctly guesses that Swan has a hand in the story about the Reds propping up false dragons. She goes, I bet that Sanche woman is behind. Yep, she is. She made it up.
Totally.
We get a reminder here that Elaida doesn't have all the facts, but that doesn't stop her from making big assumptions and holding on to them for dear life. Specifically, the foretelling she had about the role of the Andorran royal family will, the role the family will have in the last battle, and decided for herself that must mean Elaine. That's why she's so fixated on getting Elaine back in the tower and all that sort of stuff. And then she thinks about Elaine as well and says, a little time back in the tower would make the girl damp clay in Elaida's hands. Don't know about that one, Elaida. I thought it was pretty weak tactics in making someone know their place by focusing on her miniatures or knitting. You know, she's talking about like a little miniatures that she's playing. If she gives them more attention, the other person would know their place. I did have a note here that I bet, because Elaida says here that her knowledge of those 8 additional men that are not in the official records come from a personal place where Alviarin's come from after being raised to keeper and having access to those records, and now Alviarin knows about it. I bet Elaida knows and potentially was even involved in specifically Owen and the other men that were murdered, and I bet her name comes up on the list of names that Moiraine promised Tom. I wonder if she ever gives him that list. It'll be fun to see.
Yeah. We've seen twice before.
Elaida wants the network. She wants the network of Amyrlin eyes and ears that Swan currently controls, but she admits to not actually trusting them. So eyes and ears informants always make the information seem more valuable than it really is. Make up your mind. Do you want the eyes and ears, or do you think they're full of shit? She almost respects the interpretation of the law that allowed a non-sister to be raised as Amyrlin of the rebels, since she had made a very close study of those laws herself when she was preparing to overthrow Swan. She thinks like that was actually very cleverly done, and yes, no, it doesn't make any reference anywhere about her having to be a full sister to become Amyrlin. And then she says she also thinks Alviarin is jumping at ghosts, that she's going to start spewing Swan's lies about the Forsaken being loose. I just wrote here, Alviarin has been approached by various Forsaken already. Like she's meeting with them.
5. I've made a list in my notes.
But then Elaida thinks to herself, but of course she did not know the secret, but just the same. What secret? She means to crush the rebels like a rotten melon. Her secret assured that. What secret? Is it the secret about Rand being captured and sort of maybe she controlling the Dragon Reborn or something like that?
Maybe it's the 5, farmers inside the town that are talking about how great she is. That's her big secret.
That's her big secret.
That washerwoman who thinks Elaida is the shizness.
Yeah. And probably also faking it.
Yeah. She got paid to say that.
All right, that's all I had to unpack there. That's nothing, right? That's barely a thing.
No, nothing at all.
The first of how many points of view are there? 5 in this chapter. We've done 1.
I was sitting here looking at the time going past, thinking like, okay, this is.
So then let's move on to Sevanna. Joe, what is she up to?
No good.
Obviously.
It's Sevanna. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we go back to Sevanna. She's still at Dumai's Wells. We get a picture of her point of view from the battle. So not after the event, but before and during. Mm-hmm. So they're busy prepping themselves. They still haven't engaged. They're preparing to attack the Aes Sedai wagons because they don't even know that another army's on the way. Nothing's happened yet. So to their perspective, it's still just the Aes Sedai wagons with Rand and the Younglings that are guarding them, and that's who they're going to attack. They've got 40,000 spears with them, so that should be more than enough to deal with these Aes Sedai. She's just sitting there again, like, has she been chatting to Paden Fane as well, I wonder? Because she's also got delusions of grandeur, and she's just thinking about how everything's going to change once she marries Rand, and she has him under control, and she can lead him on a leash, and blah, 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 blah. All of those things. And she's also thinking about, like, how everything's going to change. Like, if you think about it, the Shaido are a breakaway of people who did not want to accept the change. But now she's already adopted change. She's got big plans. Like, all of this, she's going to decide, look, once her and Rand are married, they will decide who becomes clan chiefs. Like, they'll name them personally, if any one of the clan chiefs at that point. She's going to adopt the Wetlander way of succession as well. She thinks that's a good idea. Because I'm the clan chief, and now my son will be clan chief after me, and so forth and so on. So there's big changes coming for the Shaido that they are not fully aware of at this moment. While she's having her fanciful thoughts, one of the Shaido appears to tell her that, look, one of the Wetlander scouts that they were tracking escaped, so they're heading back. The jig is up, basically. So she orders everybody to attack, every single spear to overwhelm the Aes Sedai and take them out. But the clan chiefs are not stoked. They're like, whoa. We are in charge of the battle, and we want our screens and our reserves and all these other things. And she just thinks you're a bunch of fools. Listen, I am in charge, so you're going to listen to what I'm going to say. And everybody throw everything we have at them. The old charge, what's his name? Wyramon. Yeah. She'd get on like a house on fire with that dude. She taunts them by calling them scaredy cats, basically, who have no honor. And it works.
The
They're
gall
so easily
of her.
manipulated.
Have you no honor?
Yeah. Have you no honor? And they're like, what the fuck? I have honor. I will fight. And off they go. So everyone's on board.
She invokes Desane's name and then says, have you no honor?
Yeah. She does it a couple of times. It works. So kudos to her. It's working. She also has talked the other wise ones, her wise ones, into fighting. But a lot of them are very uncertain. They are not keen on fighting any wise ones or any Aes Sedai. They heard, because she's like, she's heard the rumors about the past of the Aiel, but since she never went to Rhuidean, she doesn't know. But from the way the wise ones are acting, she figures it's true, because they must know something. So she knows that they came from these peaceful people who failed the Aes Sedai, so she can understand why these wise ones are not stoked to be fighting Aes Sedai. She riles up the warriors now about with these lies about Desane, and then she just like lifts her skirts and charges ahead up the hill, like, let's go, leading her men. And she's right, people follow. Everyone's like, okay, fuck, we're going for it. Off they go. And it's on like Donkey Kong. The bloodlust has her. I mean, she is, during this whole section, she's just fucking the adrenaline and the bloodlust flowing through her. She even picks up a spear at one point and starts swinging around. She's like stabbing people. She's just losing her shit, breaking every tradition that there is. But anyway, they get over the hill, and then they start noticing that, hey, hang on a second, there's a whole bunch of other shit happening here than we anticipated. All hell is breaking loose. The Aes Sedai and the wise ones are chanting like crazy. Lightning strikes near Sevanna. It knocks her through the air like 12 paces. When she wakes up, she's all disorientated. She's trying to pick up like other wise ones to like get up on your feet and let's find. Meanwhile, they're dead. Just utter like in the heat of battle is what's happening over here. But, all this thing just seems to piss her off even more. She's rallying the troops, and she's like, forward spears, and like people are she's riling people up. So she's actually got something going for her there. Like, even when she screams forward spears, some of the younger wise ones run into like the maelstrom of bodies. She's like, no, I didn't mean that. I mean, use the one power.
Yeah.
So people are riled up and going fucking crazy. And it's at this point now when the tide starts to change a bit, and now all of a sudden there's wolves. And like she hears growls, and there's ripping out of Shaido throats, and then these guys on horses in red, and the Mayoners are there starting to carve through her troops. It's like, who the fuck are these guys, and where are the wolves coming from? And this is when the Wetlander reinforcements arrive. They've also brought wise ones who are also fighting, and she's like, whoa, this is bad shit. She's like, what, Savannah? Not Savannah. Sorelia, something else with an S. Sorelia's fighting? Like, oh my god. So now the wise ones, the Shaido wise ones won't fight those wise ones. No. They're like, no, listen, we said we'll fight Aes Sedai, but we're drawing the line there. And she's like, fucking whatever, fight whoever you want to fight, just go and fight. So they push forward again. Then there's a loud boom. Big noise. And it's like, oh yeah, mic drop. Here come the Ashraman. She's seeing flickers of light as gateways open. Like out of the corner of her eye, she sees a flicker, and it's like I thought it was a very cool scene, like seeing all these little flickers and turning around, and then there's nothing, and just like freaking her out because she can't see weaves, so she doesn't know what's going on, but the battle is peaking now. This is like the shit is about to go down, and she sees the fireballs and the lightning start slowing down. So this is like when Rand has escaped. That's that boom that
from the chest
escaping from the chest, and now the fireballs and lightnings are slowing down as he's knocking out the Aes Sedai from behind there. But this is like also the point now when the Ashraman have arrived. We've seen the gateways, and now the wall of air is going up, and she can see the effects of it, but she can't see the weaves. So she thinks it's the Aes Sedai, and she's shouting at the wise ones to do something about it, like stop these Aes Sedai from doing that. Can't you see what they're doing? And there's like two of them, the two wise ones, Tion and Riale or whatever, are like just freaking the fuck out, telling her like that wall was not constructed with by women. This is men not doing this, and everyone stopped dead. So she's trying to rally her army forward, but it's around about, because there's a wall, obviously the wall of air that's gone up, so the army is kind of stuck and nothing's moving forward. And she's trying to rally them, like spears forward, and it's around this time that the old head popping, meat grinding, rolling ring of earth and fire weaves are being deployed, and she starts hearing screaming and shouting, and everybody turns around and starts running away. They just getting the fuck out of there. She's absolutely disgusted with them, screaming like, turn around, you cowards. While people are running, she's got that spear that she had, and she's like stabbing her own guys, like maidens and Shaido, just like trying to get them to go back. But the other wise ones tell her like, listen, we've seen some shit up there. Staying is death. We better get the fuck out of here. So eventually she capitulates, and she's like, all right, fuck, we will retreat and regroup and come back another time. And that's the end of her point of view.
Now she stabs a maiden in the back. And then shouts.
Like Moritz gave me
the worst chapters.
Elaida, Sevanna, and the next one's Alviarin.
Sevanna shouts at the
people.
maiden when she stabs her in the back, have you no honor? Stand and fight. Like she keeps asking, have you no honor? And she's just like lying and stabbing people in the back.
And she's a not real wise one who's picked up a spear and stabbed another Shaido in the back.
It just shows you know that she actually has no concept of honor. She actually doesn't understand it. She talks earlier about making people meet their toe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Words out of my mouth. Yeah. Exactly. But she does admit then that like she realizes how ridiculous that sounds to make someone meet toe that they haven't even acknowledged they have. Yeah.
It whips them up.
But regardless. Yeah. It whips them up into a frenzy. Villy?
What you got, Vil?
I'm not nothing about that woman. I've got nothing good. No interest. I don't want to
nothing
add
to
anything.
Say.
Just stupid.
I've got a couple little tidbits here.
Of course you do.
Just a couple. Just a sprinkling, a smattering, if you will.
Of tidbits.
The Cadden Saw cut can tell you which sept clan or society the Aiel belong to. So this is how the maidens must assume wetlanders or anyone can distinguish them from Shaido maidens without the need of red armbands. There's actually in their clothes say something about both your clan, your sept, and your society.
Yeah, like if it's 150 thread count.
If you've got lapels or, a certain upright collar. Yeah.
Lapel.
Ooh, a double collar.
Maybe gold threading or something. It's like a minor difference.
Lace at the cuffs.
I dig it, but it gives a cool mechanism by which that is, because otherwise it does seem like, how is anyone supposed to know who anyone is in these huge Aiel on Aiel battles, right? And here we go. There's actually a very easy way. But then that also means there's a very easy way to game the system. Like you could put on the clothes of a...
But that would not be honorable.
That's true. I'll just wrap myself on the knuckles here, Joe.
They wouldn't dream of doing that. No. Not even a Shaido dog would dream of doing that.
It's true. They wouldn't. Villy, the Shaido wise ones throw a bunch of fireballs to begin the battle at Dumai's Wells. I don't think that Gawyn taught them any fireball weaves.
But Sevanna says, like she doesn't know if they already knew that or if they just learnt what they had seen, because
and also they seem to get better at them. The first one is the size of a person's head, and then later the size of a horse or something like that. And only once one has been thrown, they start increasing. Like other wise ones in the group have also seen them. But
like, oh, cool. Wow.
At least the first one,
I can do that. Yeah.
Just the last one is that when the Aes Sedai defense starts failing, Sevanna thinks to herself that she was winning. Not the Aiel or the Shaido. Yeah. She was winning. This shows you what a fucking egomaniac she is as well. So from one egomaniac to another, and now a third, Alviarin. Jody, what is this moral saint, Alviarin? What is she doing?
Out of these 3 points of view, Alviarin is the most level-headed.
It's true.
She is the least egomaniacal out of all of them. She knows her place.
She's the most grounded. Yeah. That's saying a lot.
This is weird. Wow. Head of the Black Aja. So there she is. So she's done now with her little power play, weird meeting with Elaida. So she's returning to her own apartments. She's, running through this foretelling through her head, and then she's wondering to herself as well, like, maybe it's about time I killed Elaida, or at least had her killed. This wouldn't be the first time I've had Aes Sedai killed, and even, how the Black Aja having Amyrlin Seats killed. So, yeah, this is not the first time. But while she's in her rooms thinking about all of this, our old buddy Mesaana arrives. I don't know if I should go back and mention that she was just walking through. I think there's a scene where she's walking back down, because she has to go through the whole tower, because she's right at the top. Yeah. And she passes all of these Aes Sedai, and some of them are like looking at her, or everyone's wearing their shawls. And one of them that she passes is Mesaana. Yep. In disguise, right?
Danelle.
Yeah. Yeah, Danelle, the old dreamy brown. And so Mesaana pops into her apartment, and she's like, all right, debrief. What happened here, please? So, of course, she's like this is what I'm saying, that she's Alviarin's the most level-headed. Like, she's looking out of her windows, and it's late afternoon already, but it suddenly gets very dark, and without even flinching, she knows exactly what's going on. She turns around and falls straight to her knees, in submission, because she knows, okay, I'm being visited. Like I said, like you said as well, she's been visited by a number of Forsaken. She knows the drill already. And here's Mesaana, and she gives her the lowdown. She tells her everything that was said in the meeting, word for word. She tells her about the foretelling and all of that stuff. But Mesaana's like, it's better to keep Elaida alive. I want her to go and try out all these plans and everything. So it's like almost as if she can read her mind about having Elaida killed. But she knows, she's thinking to herself at this point, like, she's had a lot of experience with these Forsaken, and they are not omnipotent and all-knowing, and like they need to be told these kind of things. So she doesn't think that her mind is actually being read. And she thinks about, this is the place where she thinks about all the times that she's been visited by Forsaken. And the first was Ishamael many, many years ago. Second was Lanfear. I imagine that was when she was in the tower, when we saw her. And she was in disguise, and I think it was Elaine that saw her, or was it Nynaeve in the hallway?
Egwene.
Oh, Egwene. One of those three.
You were going to get there eventually.
I was eventually going to get there. And then Grendel, I don't know when Grendel was there.
Me neither.
I don't know when
I had that note as well, Joe. We know about Lanfear, but not Grendel. I don't know.
Belal plucked her out and took her into the world of dreams, I think. Like, he didn't come to the tower. He just plucked her out of the tower and took her to where he wanted to go, scared the shit out of her. And now Mesaana. So that's 5 in total that she knows of, that she's been visited directly and had a chat with. I suppose when you're the head of the Black Aja, you get pulled on a lot by,
I guess so,
by the Forsaken.
I mean, you report to the High Council.
Comes with the job.
So
the higher council.
She's the Supreme Council. She is the head of the Supreme Council.
Yeah, but of like her low little like labor faction, then you got to go to the top.
It's called bosses. The Supreme Council. No, she has to go meet with the C-level management, the C-suite.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to take the long elevator up, like ding, ding.
Yeah,
ding.
This is, I don't know. This might be shareholders or anything.
Board members.
Yeah, she's got the board members now. Yeah. So Mesaana is disguised. In her weaves are inverted, her ability to channel, her face, everything, like black and silver lights and shit. So she correctly figures it must be because she's disguising herself, because she's in the tower and doesn't want to be recognized.
Smart cookie.
So Alviarin's, she's on it, bro. Like, out of these first 3 lunatics, least lunatic there is.
Hold that thought.
So she hold it.
Hold that thought. Hold my beer. She figures maybe it's time I can actually ask a question, which is a very, very dangerous thing to do around the Forsaken, using your brain and asking questions. But she figures this is worth it. So she asks about the Black Tower. Because look, I've just been ordered to send some sisters to the Black Tower, and is it safe? Can I send like 50? Is that going to be enough? I mean, Mesaana doesn't even bother answering her question, but Alviarin takes that as, all right, I'm not going to send any Black Aja sisters. The ones I'm going to send is because I think this is a bad idea. No one's coming back from there. So I'll keep my Black Aja guys by myself. And, she's just not going to push the issue, because this is the point where she remembers that when people start making their own plans and asking too many questions is when Ishmael, kills your predecessor for overstepping, and where replacements are found for you. So just leave it at that. But she makes a mental note not to send any Black Archer sisters to the Black Tower. Before she leaves, Masana decides to drop a little nugget. She says, all right, you can be useful, you little dog, you slime ball. So you're strong enough, so I'm going to teach you something. This is called a gateway, and drops a bomb there. So now, I think that's the biggest takeaway from this point of view, is that the Black Aja knows traveling at this point, and that's where the point of view ends.
Yeah. I think she also makes her promise that she's loyal to Masana and not to Ishmael or anyone else. Yeah. Because the Black Aja belongs to Ishmael.
Ishmael said. Yeah.
But
I mean, every time I can imagine of those 5 people, Ishmael made a promise. You're only loyal to me, right? She went, yeah. And then the next one, she was like, yeah, only you. And then like, Belal, yeah, sure, only you, Belal. And now Masana. It's just a long line of...
It's like, they're not going to compare notes.
No.
No.
Those 5 are not talking to each other.
Masana does it because she wants to make sure that it doesn't come out to the other Forsaken that she's taught one of these third ages how to travel. It's before she shows how to make a gateway.
Don't you teach this to anyone else either. I decide who knows this.
Yes.
And at the moment, only you.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Secret's out now, man.
The thought I told you to hold on to is when Alviarin, quite rightly, like you said, Joe, she sort of deduces that Masana must be hiding in the tower. So she thinks to herself, she must be one of the sisters. Surely she was not among servants bound to labor and sweat. But who? Too many women had been out of the tower for years before Elaida's summons. Too many had no close friends or none at all. Masana must be one of those. And earlier, when she walks past Danelle, she thinks to herself, a solitary with no friends, not even in her own Aja.
Oh, man.
There it is. Alviarin, you had the thought, but you had the thought after making the observation about specifically the woman that Masana is posing as.
I suppose then by default, she is in a group of people she's considering. She'll get there.
Yeah. Does she?
I wonder.
I wonder.
I don't know.
Yeah, the only other note I had was about Ishmael, but we spoke about Jana Malari and the vileness earlier. All right, Joe, you're off the hook. You can take a drink of water and wash out your mouth after speaking about all these reprehensible cows. Okay, Villy, after those reprehensible cows, why don't you take us into the heart of the reprehensible douchebags with a point of view from Pedron Niall, or shall I say Pedro Niall? Sorry for my pronunciation.
Pedro Niall. Thank you for that correction. Yes, we are there. Yes. Now, just the split in the point of views and the chapter allocations was quite ironically divvied and split exactly as it is in the audiobooks between the two narrators. So it's Kate reading, does all of the previous ones, and then it hops over and it's what's Michael Kramer. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. All right. But anyway, we're with Pedro. Old mate's playing stones with Morghese. Morghese is taken to her new tactic. She's now flirting with old mate Pedro. She's now laying it on thick. Like, okay, cool. You got to jump from one tactic to the other tactic when you're playing the game of houses. But Pedro does notice her advances and all of that. But he still has his plan. He's gonna lead armies into Andor with her at the helm of it all, and she beats him again at a game of stones while all of this inner monologue is going on, and boasts about that she had him by the 31st stone and blah, blah, blah.
I love that she beats him.
Yeah, but I think she beats him now also in this period now quite often. Like, this is not the first time.
She stopped. Niall recognizes that she was losing on purpose. And he's like, okay, cool. No, this is better.
Yeah, okay, cool. He likes this challenge, but it also like intrigues him because he mentions, like, if he was maybe 25 years younger, and then it would have quite been.
And she wasn't a witch.
She wasn't a witch.
Comes afterwards. It's like it doesn't come like Not if I wasn't 25 years younger. If she wasn't a witch, would have been the first thing, if that's where your moral fiber lies. But that's kind of like an afterthought. Oh, yes. And if she wasn't a witch on 2 occasions, that kind of passed by. Now, Morghese does again try and persuade him that she can see Galad. But they won't do that because Galad is a tool to control her. So letting the two of them know of each other and their situations is just not going to fly.
Mm-hmm.
Surely news would get to him, though, right? In the White Cloaks. Like, it's pretty obvious that she is there.
Among, like, top level.
Pedro is also, like, he's talking about, like, what a good soldier Galad is. So, like, information is flowing between the Fortress of Light and wherever Galad is and what he's doing. So, yeah, you're right, Joe.
I mean,
like,
they marched her through public to get to his quarters. Remember when she passed the hanging? You know, like,
she's been out.
It's not a secret.
She's been out with other nobles from Amadicia, fucking falconing and shit. You know, like.
Hey guys, I just want to remind you guys about the distribution of information. In this world. It's not like that's what seems to be obvious to you guys that Twitter will get there, TikTok will get it out there in a moment. They're not there. The ravens, the pigeons, none of them are reliable. Anyway, we digress. So
we do.
All right.
Pedro's board game gets interrupted by Abdulul Abmyrna coming in to bring in some news.
Abdulu?
Some of this news being obvious fake news. Now we know who he is. He's the puppet spy master that picks up Stormpiece and brings everything home, and he believes everything he hears. He's the worst spy master, but he gets the airtime he deserves to be able to believe that his role is real, I suppose. But he brings multiple newses.
Alternative facts.
News 1. He has not found Gawyn and Elaine yet. Okay, that's not good news. That's not major news. Also not news enough to have disrupted his games and fantasying about Morghese. But news 2 is a 3-striped bone cylinder, which is obviously important news and real news because it's kind of the confirmation news that Pedro was waiting for. And it turns out that it is indeed the news from up way in Sanshan land. Invasion is now by a second set of eyes, not written in code. This is big news. This is now not just fanciful writings of a madman. It's now, okay, there's witches on leashes. It's
in plain common tongues and also from Tarabon, right?
Yeah, and also now a second source. This is, what is his name? I had it here. Faint man. Faizar sent him the note.
Never to be read about again.
No. Faizar, Quasar.
Sounds similar to Aladdin, the king or the sultan.
No, that was Jafar. That was Jafar.
Oh, Jafar. Faizar, Jafar, something.
Same thing.
Yeah. All right. News 3. There's more news.
News 3.
This is now Umona special news. Also
delivered by Dagger.
Fake news. Wait, now we're getting to Dagger still. Fake news 3 is that the confirmation that the tower is now split and that the head of the black is, or there's black witches there, and of course Pedro is not happy to be hearing that his 360 rumors is now making the way back. Like, he's happy that it is working, but he's not happy to be listening to it coming to him from this idiotic man now claiming it to be gospel. It's like I want you to be a fake, but I just want you to pick up sort of the shit. Like, Not just anyway. I sense the annoyance of the man. And then this news 4 is that the Alpha is a puppet of the tower, and to that you can almost imagine Pedro smacking his own forehead, looking at the guy saying, "Duh, it is what we said. It is our plan." Any which way, during all of this babbling, Myrna makes his way closer, and he yabbles and babbers on and whatever, only to do an et tu brute, dagger to the ribs, followed by a pull out and a push back right in to double stab, double tap in the ribs. Yeah, that happened.
Just Morghese has been sent out at this point, right? Morghese
Yes,
is not
yes,
there.
yes.
I was about to say.
Morghese has been evacuated.
Morghese is
out of
not
the room.
sitting there playing stones going, fuck.
I maybe should have said that. She doesn't like Ramona. She did pass by him, sort of giving him eyes. She's like, gross man. He's a bit of a gross man. But
You didn't
anyway.
even notice her.
But Ramona explains.
He's all sweaty and nervous.
He explains his position like it had to be done. And that he was taking it too easy on the witches, and the witches has got control and whatever.
It's not wrong.
Now, in comes the guy that actually orchestrated all of this, Valda. Old mate Valda. Old mate Valda then sees Myrna with a crimson blade, and he then decides to pull out his sword and slay Myrna there while yelling high words of treason and what. And before Myrna could say it, but we were in a pact. You told me to do this. He runs him through, and with a society stick in the middle. And that's the end of that. And Valda is now the king. Point of view, King Valda. Radamasannawa decides to now all of a sudden also make his appearance in this quarter where there's now slain multiple men on the floor. Now, as old mate was dying on the floor, now old mate Niall, his only thing that he wanted to do was not to send the message to his long forgotten family or anything. He just wants to tell these guys, hey, like, this real shit here. We've got witches on leashes. Read the message. It never gets that far. He doesn't get the message out. Valda still thinks like, oh, this dagger old wolf. He's got some he's got some feist left in him. But yeah, that's where that ends. Asunawa is in on this whole power grab move, it seems. And Bulwer had now also come in, and Bulwer is now the disregarded secretary, but the real spy master. And Valda just sends him out on firstly, as Asunawa saying, oh, it's a sad day, what happened, and how this whole scene played out with Valda being the hero, slaying Myrna. Bulwer, I think, sees through all of this anyway, but he gets given the instruction to
he
send
heads
the
straight
message.
He heads straight to go pick up the Queen of Andor and get the fuck out of there. This is not right. I don't believe anything anyone's saying in this room. Cheers.
No, go. But yeah, talk of a sad day. Go and get each of the Lord Captains in the fortress. Tell them of the murder and that the Council of the Anointed will meet, which basically sets up the scene that he's making a power grab now. Okay, cool. Well, he just orchestrated the murder of the Lord Captain, so his plan is in action. So we do a little bit of a point of view change now to Gawyn. This is now directly post Dumai Wells. And I would think that everything that we've read through in this prologue is in and around that same period of time. Like events that happened right there and then, or a day
it's
before.
While Dumai's Wells is happening, I think.
Anyway, Gawyn and them have now sort of gotten away their little breakout of his 580, 81 younglings. They're now under 200 that's left. And it's not looking good. He can see a lone rider, looks to be a sister, coming towards them, and he can also then see the arrow that takes the horse out and the sister falling. That triggers him to action. Get people, we gotta ride, we gotta go and save them. Good guy Gawyn still wants to do good guy things. I'm gonna very much gloss over all his knee-sitting reflections. There's a lot of reflection.
Please don't. Tell us every word. Recount every emotion he
has
felt.
Folded that letter. Right, moving on. His mind is occupied by two things. One, his job as a youngling, and two, Elaida and Alviarin. There's no space for anything else. Anyway, he sees the arrow, and I've mentioned the horse falling. He does what he needs to do and get the younglings. But as all of this goes down, and he's sort of down what I would imagine a bit of a valley between two hills, whatever it is, the Aiel come over, and there's just a bloody battle that ensues with them being swamped on by Shaido dogs. And the younglings have now also learned how to start fighting. Like they got to keep moving on their horses, twos and threes together, backing up each other. A war horse. You hear all the story about how do you train a horse to bite someone's face off?
A horse?
You rub peanut butter on people's faces?
No, you don't understand. It doesn't work that way. Like, I mean, the horses join the
obviously
battle.
It works.
Not peanut butter. Come on, maybe carrots,
apples,
sugar,
apple slices. You stick apple slices all over their faces.
I don't know. Anyway, then
if anyone out there knows how to train a warhorse, please write in and let us know.
I've always known that a horse that goes to war and a warhorse would kick. Like, okay, there's a dude in front of me, I'm running into him and kick him out of the way. But a horse biting a man's face off, like, that's a new level of warhorse. That's kind of like, okay, cool. That's the
almost. Would you say like a fantasy warhorse?
I'm sure, dude. This is based in reality. A horse bite is a nasty fucking thing. Yes. I'm sure in battle they would have had horses that do that. Just bite your face off. Fuck you.
Humanity have trained.
That's what the horses used to say
to do this
before they did it.
We have a history of training animals to do stuff for us. So I'm not going to dispute the value of that sentence. I don't want to throw it away. I want to know, how do you train a horse to bite someone's face off? Like, how is it done? Like, you can't. It's not something that you can have like 5 men stand around like, all right, guys, we're gonna train old hop stepper here to bite faces today. So just
I need a volunteer.
Be yourselves, act natural, have a bite, you know.
John, get over there with some apple slices on your face. Let's see how this goes.
Valid point. I mean, anyway, where was I before I had horse faces? Gawyn. He is finding himself dismounted and in a battle with a formidable foe. There is every encounter is met with equal prowess and blocking and attacking and stabbing and slicing and minor little wounds and all of the rest. But unfortunately, a horse sort of knocks the Aiel man from the back and he has a little stumble, and as anyone would in battle, he takes his opportunity and runs him through with a sword, feeling bad that was a good fight. That would have been an honorable fight and an honorable death, and it was sort of kind of a dishonorable killing, which kind of like tells us about the man's goodness, I suppose. Well, about the way that he killed the man, his goodness. He didn't kill him lustfully. He didn't aram. He didn't do a aram. We'll get to
No,
that
no, he's not
bloodlusting
Iron,
thinker.
right. That's a
Stinker, yes, still. Anyway,
important distinction.
now Gawyn, after that, still he needs to go and do his priority task is to get to that sister. Eventually gets to the horse with some men to find saddlebags are emptied, a dress on the floor. So, like, she had time to change, or was just a dress that was in the saddlebags that was thrown. But who is this mystery person? Is this Galena?
Is this not? Is this Galena? Is what I thought as well.
Her dress was
Galena.
ripped off her. Yeah. She's Gawyn now. She's been taken by the Shaido.
She has been taken. All right, there we go.
It's not the Shaido that were approaching her that attacked Gawyn. It was a different group because they're all scattered after Dumai's wells.
Yes.
So on his way to saving Galena, the younglings were intercepted by a group of Shaido, and by the time Gawyn got to the horse, the other Shaido that had been approaching her had already taken her and made her Gawyn. So naked in the sun for her, I'm afraid.
Didn't happen to a better person.
Good fucking riddance. It gets worse from here. I'll speak to Christina, who's also on book 11 at this point. Some terrible shit happens to this woman from now on.
All right, well, that is the end of the prologue chapters and multiple points of views.
Yes. This Gawyn one was pretty short. Does anyone have anything to add, Joe? You know, it was Galena.
Yeah, no, I like how the younglings have adapted. Like they learn. They might be young, but they've got some brains on them, and they're like, okay, when we fight Aiel, we've got to fight like this. This what we've been trained in the tower. We've got to adapt. And like, the Shaido are trying to kill them. The fucking Aes Sedai are trying to kill them. Elaida, in her point of view, says we'll be rid of Gawyn, we'll get rid of her brother so that Elaine can. She has a plan to kill him. Like, everyone's trying to kill him, and he's like, "I'm still here.
Idiot,
I'm not going away."
Caesar, he recognized that before Dumai Wells. Like, he has a feeling the sisters want to off him, and yet he's still there. Like an idiot. Anyway, I don't want to rant. I don't want to rant about the guy, but. He's just a real jock some days.
Look, if you want some Gawyn rants, the internet is your friend.
And there's a lot of them online. Gawyn does learn about the Aiel because after the skirmish is done, he's about to turn away with a couple other men, and he says to the men that are left behind with all the wounded, he goes, and watch those Aiel. Just because they're dying doesn't mean they've quit. Correct.
Never
Gawyn.
a true word spoken.
Correct. He has a thought here about Egwene, who escaped Cairhien as he thinks as a lowly accepted. No more, Gawyn, no more.
No.
And then we should cast our minds back to our little scene in the Fortress of Light. Joe, did you have anything you want to? I've got like 3 or 4 points here. Very quick hits.
In the Fortress of Light.
Niall's assassination.
No, that interruption I made was about the height of my involvement.
Well, you said that Asanawa seems to be in on this whole thing. Do you think that he helped Valda plan this?
I've got the feeling. Yes.
That's where they met in the Dome of Truth. That's their first meeting, and then afterwards, off page, they had meetings. They're staging a coup, the two of them.
Oh, interesting.
But it was Asanawa who wanted the power at the end. He was trying to use Valda to get it, and then Valda was like, I'm the one that's publicly now
running the show.
I used you to get what I want. Now I've killed the assassin. Now I'm publicly the hero. I'm taking charge.
And at that, as well as Asanawa was pushing that he wants more guys to the questioners. Like, that needs to come pushing hard, and Valda's like, nah, not until my job's done. Like, after that, you can.
But then he thinks, maybe I'll give him a little taste. You know, like really
a little touch,
treating her like a commodity.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is. I mean, because we know that Bulwer is traveling with Morghese and the rest of them. It's like Bulwer leaves the room. Like, I'm sure he's immediately going there. It's like, we've got to get out of here. We're all fucked.
Yeah.
Or how long does it take?
Isn't she still subjected to Valda and some pretty gross behavior in the months to come?
I don't recall. Like, again, who are you asking? I don't know.
I don't think
Really?
Bulwer has left immediately.
It's very, very soon that they do their
They leave?
flight, but not immediately.
Yeah, but that something happens. Like she meets with Valda. Do you remember?
No.
Billy, you've read this
Man.
book.
I
Now,
Like,
recently.
Look, Christina's sitting right here. She's read it. You want me to ask her quickly?
No, rather not. Let's not
Alright.
let's not prod that bear too much. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that Morghese and Bulwer want to get the hell away from Eamon Valda. Niall, she could still work with.
Yes, but I mean, Bulwer at this point in the story is the only one who knows there's been a coup.
Yes.
That, like Morghese has left the room. She's thinking, oh well, tomorrow I'll play more stones. So
Look, Bulwer also only sees exactly what Asinawa and Valda would be telling everyone anyway. It's not like he saw something that would be a secret or anything. So it wasn't a coup, because a coup would imply that there was a play for power openly. It was an assassination attempt, which is actually a secret coup, because it was Valda that put Omona up to it.
True. But Bulwer would realize that his boss is dead. Like, the only reason he has that job, that was only Niall that knew he was the real master of...
He knows.
Everyone is going to know that his boss is dead, but Bulwer, like, I think what you're implying is that Bulwer is smart enough to piece together that it was orchestrated by Valda.
And also that his advantage is now gone.
Yes.
Because he's the real master of spies, and only Niall knew that. No one else
No,
knew.
Valda could not have misjudged Bulwer any more.
Yeah.
He sees him as the incarnation of uselessness. No.
Yeah, you're the incarnation of uselessness.
Yes.
It shows you how good he is in his job.
Case in point, Bulwer knows about Elaine and Ibudar. Bulwer knows about Elaine and Ibudar. Jacob Carradine already has orders for her. Like, information must be traveling pretty quickly.
I'm sure Bulwer already knows how the last battle should be won. Break the seals. He knew all along.
Two more little points here. Just crazy dogmatic thinking from Niall about how talking about the Black Arja is heresy, since it implies that not all Aes Sedai are dark friends. No Omona, there can be no Black Arja because all Aes Sedai are dark friends. Like, okay, can you just get over that a little bit? I mean, Niall had shown glimpses of being reasonable, but then still falls back on his total indoctrination.
He is a White Cloak. I mean, he's the
Exactly.
leader of the White Cloak, so...
Yep. But
and
him
he's
specifically,
old. It's like,
showed signs of not being so under the spell. But then every now and then he would say something or think something. You're like, oh, no, wait, there it is. Yep, still a White Cloak.
yeah.
And then my last point is, in big bold letters, irony alert. Valda thinks to himself, Asunawa had a love of the truth, a strange love. He could tie it into knots or hang it up and flay it while it screamed. But so far as Valda knew, he never actually lied. Remind you of anyone?
An Aes Sedai?
Just so ironic
Yeah.
that like the high questioner of the Children of the Light is displaying the exact same characteristics as the Aes Sedai, whom they hate with a passion.
Yeah, everyone should. That's the takeaway.
Indeed. And that concludes the prologue of Crown of Swords.
What is this
5
shitty
hours
called
later.
Prologue? Dude, it's really a bunch of bad people.
Yeah, a lot of table setting, but with a bunch of dirty plates.
Broken plates.
That brings us then into chapter 1, called High Chasseline. How does Michael
That's it.
Kramer pronounce it? Chasseline?
Chazzaline.
Chasseline? God damn it.
Chasseline is how you should say it.
Well, how about you chase a line of inquiry, Villy?
I will chase a line of inquiry for you. Right. We start off the 7th book.
Best one yet.
Book. I can't remember what book count we're on of the Wheel of Time with the classical run through of the wind of the time of the wheel of the turns of the mountains of the mists and dragons and the stones. And
was there a breeze?
There was a breeze.
Billy, was there a breeze?
There was a breeze.
Someone farted in Bramewood and someone smelt it in Tarvalon.
Yep. That all went down.
Elaida was like, what did I step in?
Right. Point of view, Perrin. Location, few miles south from the field of corpses. The cops, once known as Dumai's Wells. And we are basically the following day after the massacre. And it's also this another festival day that we don't really know much about. The weather is exactly where we left it the last time, hot ass and dry and shit. Okay, now Perrin is
start of Wheel of Time book alert. Much repetition of previously established facts will commence.
Happen, yes. It's very fruity and flavorful at this point in time. Very much a curry, I would say, with the amount of flavor and spice and adage that is going in there. Right. Perrin is reflecting on the horrors and the deaths and everything that went down, and he is very unhappy about the wolves that had died, to the point that the thought about it makes him want to howl. He also has a little bit of a...
Did he howl in the middle of the camp?
No, he didn't. He wanted to.
No. It just read like
this
that.
time.
Yes. Now, Perrin also reflects on home life. Which also makes him sigh deeply because his wife is not easy. Let's just leave it at that. We'll deal with a lot of that still going forward. Aram is not stoked about the quantity of nudity around him. For a fun-loving tinker that used to indulge in love and hippie life, you'd expect nudity and it. But he's kicked so hard against these thinkers. Like, he's turned his back on everything. He just wants his sword and blood. The naked Shaido.
Like he'll slice human bodies to shreds, no problem. But oh my god, one of them's naked.
No. It's not decent. No. The dragon should, short of 200.
There's a lot of boobs and a lot of wangs, just a lot of floating around him, and he's made supremely uncomfortable by it.
It's like Woodstock. I mean, it's
just a bit more somber,
except for the
and dry
bloodbath
and blood. No love and peace.
It's totally like Woodstock.
I take that back.
Might as well.
It's not like Woodstock. It's the opposite of Woodstock, but they're naked. Okay, wait now. Let's get serious. We do learn that about 200 Shaido dogs has been taken as Gawyn. So they're running their tasks in the nude, which is part of the difficulty because there's no whites to throw them in. They all in a hurry left. Everyone forgot to pack whites for the prisoners. So they just have to go naked. Now, Gawyn is a maiden of the spear with a particular sense of humor. And she has picked up how Perrin is particularly shy around the nudity that is there, and most of some of these West Wetlander men. She's got this particular sense of humor to send nude Gawyn all the time to check if someone needs water, if someone needs that. And Perrin has now picked up on all of that. But the theme that we start picking up here, and I thought about this chapter really hard because it is a long chapter. There's a lot of real Perrin characteristics in this chapter, in the sense that there's a lot of words, a lot of thinking, a lot of slowness, and a lot of reminiscing. And this is really a true Perrin chapter. The thinky boy is back. He's thinking about the treatment of the Aes Sedai, which is the theme that I kind of think that is now going to get set off here, that there's a difference in how he feels woman, and in this case Aes Sedai, but like he's conservative. Perrin is the the more conservative of the two rivers when it comes to the treatment of the woman, it would seem. But anyway, I think we'll see this build up. I did drift off at this point in time with all of this Perrin business, and I started thinking about t-shirt ideas. And anyway, that is how, I don't want to say the chapter is boring, but as we know, and we've painted out the interest is the starting off of these books are somewhat hard,
boring
to work through. Not hard, it's just a lot of words to read. Yes. Anyway, that's there was some axe time, story time. Perrin remembering about what we was told once: when he starts liking using the axe, then it's time to throw it away. And Loyal had a little appearance. He's not happy about the treatment of the prisoner Aes Sedai. So he speaks it up loudly, and Perrin tells him, have you never learned to whisper? And he's like, I can whisper. So he's saying it loudly because he wants people around him to hear. And that is the end of that chapter.
Aftermath. Nobody's happy with the treatment of the Aes Sedai. Too many boobs and wangs, I think, is the words that Moritz used.
Yes, those are the medical terms. Yeah.
Yes, of course. The Latin, of course. Wang.
Did you have anything you wanted to add in there, Joe? Or are you also summarizing just as that is
I
it?
I just added, that's exactly what I wanted
just
to
wanted
add.
to add some
Wang.
more wang. Okay. I have a couple notes. Surprise, surprise.
Mm-hmm.
No smell of anger or resentment from Aram, even when he suggests murdering Aes Sedai. And that's the most troubling part to Perrin. His complete lack of emotion. So he's not worked up about it or anything. He's completely workmanlike, just like, these people are a threat. They need to be ended.
He wants to kill the warders.
Jesus,
the warders of the Aes Sedai. That is being
they have
like
twice now.
Yes.
Tried to cut their way loose. It's like he has a point.
Yeah.
Those guys are a problem.
And he thinks Rand should kill the Aes Sedai.
His solution to everything is death. He is he should meet Bade and Fade. Like, they get along really well.
And then I had here, my note is, the old Two Rivers responsibility for the safety of women, Chestnut. Perrin says some stuff here that is very much aligned with our conversation about, the fight that he has with Rand, and he thinks he might need to protect the Aes Sedai here from any of their captives, even Rand. So it's pretty clear what's going to come off the back of this. Perrin is here putting himself sort of in between the Aes Sedai and other people. He's taking on that protector role, like you were talking about, like the Two Rivers mentality of, what was it? Oh, I've got it written down here. The quote from the book is, he had grown up in the unspoken certainty that a man would put himself at risk to protect a woman as far as she allowed. It's a certainty. He's taking that Rand attitude about the maidens and protecting women to the nth degree. He thinks about, like, what if Rand says the wrong thing? What will he do? So he's considering acting against Rand here if Rand says the wrong thing about what to do with these Aes Sedai. If Rand says something drastic like they need to be killed or something like that, Perrin is thinking, what's he going to do? Implying that he will act, or at least consider acting, which is huge and a precursor for that big fight.
This is just such a. I mean, if you're reading it the first time and you don't really see into it, like, it's not so overtly painted. But now, been through now a couple of times, and we've now been hopping on quite a bit on this. It's like, it is, boy oh boy, it flags everywhere.
It is. It's incredible. It's a testament to, like, how the story is written, that you can read these things and sort of take, oh yeah, this is typical for a Two Rivers guy, or this is typical for Perrin, and sort of take it at face value. But then you probably, I mean, these are the previous scene that we had spoken about is Rand and Loyal and Perrin smoking pipes at the fountain, right? Or like when Loyal arrives and Rand saying, I need to do all this stuff, and they sort of get stuck and blah blah blah. Rand's treatment of people, basically, like that's in book 6. This is book 7. So the events are far enough apart. If you're reading the books as they were being published, obviously like more than a year has passed between them, so there's enough separation for you to not necessarily quite easily put all those pieces together. Or in my case, when I read these books, book 6 and 7 were already out. So I just went straight from 6 into 7. And I didn't necessarily see the now very obvious like signposts leading Perrin to that situation and that confrontation with Rand. It's all there. It's a really, really skillful way of laying that foundation for you to, as a reader, then go, what? Where did this come from? And then when you go read it again, you're like, oh shit, yes, of course, this makes total sense.
Yeah,
quite deftly done, I think. Perrin notes here that all the wise ones that came from Chiron can channel, but none have ageless faces. So we should also, as readers, be starting to piece together, oh, okay, so the oath rod is the thing that says that they can all channel, but they haven't sworn on the oath rod, so they don't have ageless faces. But conversely, they live longer, right? So like women that have not used the oath rod live for hundreds and hundreds of years, where the oath rod actually shortens their life, but it gives them the appearance of not having an age, which I thought was an interesting little, two sides of the same coin sort of deal.
What are you suggesting that the ones that don't have the ageless faces are accepted?
They're the wise ones.
No.
Because you said they haven't.
It's not immediate. When you swear on the oath rod,
yes,
it's not immediate. It takes a little while for the agelessness to take hold. But what he's saying here is the other side of it, where some of these wise ones, or all of the wise ones, can channel. None of them have the ageless faces.
Oh, wise ones. Okay, I thought I heard you say Aes Sedai.
I might have, but I meant the wise ones. So, yeah, none of the wise ones. The kin we know live long, don't have ageless faces, blah, blah, blah. So we can fairly safely assume that it's the oath rod that gives them the ageless look.
It's just kind of like the way that you want to be as blending in as a wilder. Like, you just become this like lonely granny in town. Not lonely, like the healer. Look, all your family's died already, but no, he kind of remembers that you've been there for like 600 years already. Like part of the foundations of the town.
You probably do travel away and go be somewhere else. Maybe you have to travel from time to time when people start looking at you askance.
It's like, hey, it's a Highlander problem to have. Like, Highlander all over again.
It's incredible how much Highlander crops up in this podcast.
It's incredible how much Highlander crops up in life in general.
Maybe like... your life, Jody. I think you're the one that's constantly quoting it. After this chapter, I found myself doing that thing that I have to do when I read a chapter that doesn't seem to convey much. It's like, what have we learnt from this? Why did Robert Jordan put this chapter in here? But I think we've sort of we've hit the nail on the head with the setup for the division between Rand and Perrin.
It's set up and foreshadowing. This is like the entire prologue as well. Also, well, I suppose Pedron Niall getting
that's
dispatched.
Actually, quite an event. Yeah. Speaking of events, have either of you picked a favorite one from these two chapters?
I did indeed.
Okay, well, let's change our tradition, just like Sevanna would advise, and make Jody go first.
I've already read from the book of my favorite moment is Elaida's complete insanity screaming in her head afterwards, I'll be the greatest woman the world has ever known. That whole section.
She thinks to herself, one name will be written larger than any else. So including the Dragon Reborn. Yes, her name is the one that will be written large and not the Dragon Reborn.
Exactly.
Just,
I'll be the most powerful woman the world has ever known. Are the exact words. Wow.
It reminded me of the scene of Galadriel in Lord of the Rings, where she has the opportunity in front of everyone's stage. It's like, I'll be the powerful witch. Yeah. Like, that's a line. Like freaking out in her head.
In her own mind, and then it cuts to Alviarin sitting there, and Elaida's just sort of like waving her arms like a crazy person, not saying anything. Going, ooh.
Alviarin sitting there is like, what is this woman smoking?
And that's why Alviarin's so shaken when she gets back to her apartments. It's like, that was fucking wild, man.
Okay, well, Villy, I'm going to step on your toes just to say that was also my favorite moment, Jody. It's just the insight into Elaida's state of mind, especially on this read, considering the fact that she's been in contact with Mordeth and Pedron Fane, like that.
I'd never considered that.
Looking at all this behavior through that lens and just and then clicking like, oh my God, this is a direct parallel with some of the stuff that Niall was saying about how he's going to be the hero at the final battle. Also not the Dragon Reborn. He's going to be the one that defeats the Dark One. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Elaida's plan is to keep Rand swaddled like a baby in the White Tower until Tarman Gaidon. And then what? Throw a baby at the Dark One? What do you think is going to happen? Like, he has learnt nothing. We've taught him nothing. Take it.
Amazing. Yeah. Take this baby.
She's going to lob the holy hand grenade.
What a dumb
The
plan.
Dragon Reborn. Hallelujah.
So we've instantly killed. Oh, okay.
Plan B?
Plan B, guys.
Amazing. All right, Vil.
I'm sorry. All right.
Oh, a thing that we have not had in this books for a while because of the progression of the characters and their power is a good old sword fight. And I chose a good old sword fight. Gawyn is not a slouch with a blade. He is good with a blade. And him dancing with a Shaido dog that is clearly up to the task was quite a good one. Again, just the words around sword battles, always like there's one move that sort of refers to like the tapping of a fan, like how you
taps his fan.
Like does a blade come over and like quickly try and like just split your skull quickly. Like,
remember when we used to play Immoral Wombat Villy? It's the move
Yes.
I used to do with Shang Tsung against you all the
shush,
time.
man. No.
But doesn't he win that fight because of luck?
Yes.
Because the Shaido stumbles?
A horse hits him in the back.
So,
The horse, but look,
okay, yeah.
he was matched. I don't think that RJ was going to let him die. And I think more the setup scene there is that he did what had to be done and he didn't take pride in it, or like he was saddened that it wasn't a clean death. It wasn't because he recognized
He had
what
honor.
a warrior. It's like there's honor, there's all of that.
Yeah.
And I think in contrast to Aram and his bloodlust, like he just wants to kill anything and all of it around it. And here you've got Gawyn that ends a warrior in a battle that you take every bit of luck around you in a battle and still just like this wasn't right,
Totally.
this wasn't wrong. Like what a clean person he actually is, like honorable, clean, like regardless of his thoughts of Rand. I mean, it's based on his perception of death of his mom and sister, and he doesn't know. He thinks his mom is murdered by Rand and his sister is stolen and whatever the hell else he believes.
Well, you are going to have a field day with that last book because you're right. Like as their powers increase all the time, the sword fighting sort of gets less and less. There's a couple showdowns with Rand, like in Farm Adding and in that tent when Pedron Fane attacks and all that stuff as well. But in the last book, there's like Tam, Lan, Demon Dread, Gallard. Like there's some iconic sword fights coming. And Gawyn, I don't know if it's in the last book or not, but Gawyn also goes in a crazy direction with sword fight. I don't know if you've read about it or not. Does the term, is it blood knives? Does that mean anything to you?
Nope.
Or maybe I've made that up. Maybe that's not a thing. Maybe that's from a fantasy series. But Joe, to jog your memory, there's a special type of assassin that wears a ring that gives them. Does that ring a bell? No.
Not at all.
Okay,
dude.
great. You're in for a cool ride as well. Unless, of course, again, I've made all of that up.
It's so funny that is a real risk.
100%.
Yes.
100%.
totally confusing this series with another one.
Oh, yes.
Or a dream I had.
Uh-huh. Okay, so to our listeners, send us your favorite moments. Tell us what a blood knife is. Is there such a thing? You can use any of the social media links in the episode description to get in touch, but the easiest of those is probably just tweeting us at Blood and Ash Pod. Also, if you are listening to us on Spotify, give us a star rating, or if you're on Apple Podcasts, give us a review or a rating on Apple Podcasts. Fuck, I don't know how Apple Podcasts work. I listen to Spotify podcasts myself. But all of those things will help the show reach more people who hopefully can answer some of these questions for us, because goddamn, we're digging ourselves a pretty massive pit here. Then, next time on Blood and Ashes, we will cover chapter 2, called The Butcher's Yard, through to the end of chapter 5, A Broken Crown.
Okay,
Jody's literally counting his fingers.
Maths is not my strong suit. Because 5 minus 2 is 3, dude, not 4.
Yes, I know.
Maths doesn't make sense.
No, I get it. I know exactly the phenomenon you are referring to, because I go through that mental gymnastics every single time I do chapter allocations. I now have them in an Excel spreadsheet that I just filter by certain criteria, and I can tell. All right, so that is next time, and until then, sleep well and wake.
I sure will.